welcome to myGSPN Live. You're here with your host, Robert Brown.
And Jose Rodriguez.
And our show today is brought to you by Garden and Grocer. If you're in the Disney area, if you're on vacation or whatever in the area and you want to get groceries, snacks, anything delivered to you at your resort when you show up, go to gardengrocer.com and place your order. We'd like to jump this episode, with our softball, kind of talk about that like we've been doing. Exactly. So let's jump into it. We don't have too many scores. The districts have ended, but teams are getting ready to go into regionals and the state championship, which are your next two rounds.
And it's really packed because there's a lot of districts.
We're talking about a lot of Central Florida teams that are playing, throughout these districts.
And softball, actually.
So let's start off with the lower district, 2A. We've got at 7 p.m. on the 3rd, May 3rd, we'll have Mount Dora Christian Academy versus Covenant Christian.
Yeah.
Also on the 3rd, we'll have Masters Academy versus Trinity Christian. So we're only naming our local area teams. There are, teams from South Florida, teams from North Florida, all over the state that are going to be playing in these tournaments.
And another thing Robbie, we also got to realize that in the same district, most teams are going to play it usually on the same date.
That is true.
And it's just going to be in different locations on the schools. For example, Mount Dora versus Covenant Christian. It's just going to be the different locations, but most teams in the same district and region are going to play at the same time.
Right now, games are scheduled mostly for May 2nd, May 3rd, some of them May 4th, but this first round of the regional tournament will take place those 3 days. We move to 3A. Games that are on the 3rd. First game at 7 p.m., Cornerstone Charter Academy versus Lakeland Christian. And at 4 p.m., Carrollwood Day versus Faith Christian.
It's going to be exciting.
All
these schools are really good. Obviously, they made it this far with their talent and the way they've been playing all this whole year and previous years to get ready and make themselves better for this exact moment that they're playing right now.
And all of these teams that will be playing in regionals, you either have to win your district championship or make it to the district championship and finish second. So
so we're talking about champions playing right now.
We're not talking about best of the best right now in the state.
It's not second string.
Definitely. 4A state championship. Name you've probably heard the most on this show, Montverde. Say them again because they won their district championship on May 3rd. On May 3rd, they'll play Academy of Holy Names. I've got Montverde winning. I don't really see them losing.
Yeah, me neither. You can't go against Montverde in any sport, and you just got to go with the best.
Definitely.
I agree.
On that same day at 6 p.m., we have Berkeley Prep versus Trinity Prep. These two teams have played, for years in so many different sports. They have a little rivalry going on, so to see them play for something worth a little bit more.
Yeah, and Trinity Prep has a lot of talent too. They're mostly known for their football and baseball, but nowadays softball is actually climbing up in their ranks in the school, and it's fun to watch them and see them actually going to regionals and finishing second and winning their district. So it was pretty exciting for them. Congrats to them.
This might be the biggest, maybe not the biggest list we have, but the Class 5A has a lot of Central Florida teams that are going to be in it. All these games are going to be May 2nd. So if you're in the area of any of these schools, please go check them out. We'll start off with at 7 p.m. Santa Fe versus South Sumter. Another game at 7 p.m. Eustis versus Keystone. Hernando versus Atlantic. Space Coast versus McKeel Academy. Hardy versus Cocoa.
And remember, Hardy and Cocoa, like he said, all the games are at 7. But this one is slightly different. This one starts at 7:30, mostly 8 p.m. according to how the weather treats them in the East Coast.
Definitely. Southeast versus Lemon Bay and DeSoto County versus Booker. So a lot of games with a lot of teams from this area that hopefully, either you attend the school, you went to the school, you got to go out and see some of the games this year, but these are great teams that are going to be competing for state championships soon.
And I agree. And then jumping straight into the 2018 6A softball, these games are also going to be playing May 2nd. And to start off, we have Bellevue and Crystal River. Then right afterwards is going to be River Ridge versus Jefferson. These games, we do not have the times available yet, but stay tuned after these teams play so we can give you all the highlights and news about it and important segments that happen on May 2nd for all these teams that are playing for the 6A championship.
We've got Robinson versus Land O'Lakes. The one time we do have is 4 p.m. Boca Siege versus Arbondale. That's the only game that we do have a time for right now. But like we said, on our website, on our social media, and on the show tomorrow, we'll be, giving you more
information,
times, more updates. Filling in the blanks that we don't have right now. We also have Lake Wells versus Tarpon Springs, Ugali versus Suncoast, and Port St. Lucie versus Rockledge.
And cool thing is that Ugali has a lot of talent in softball, and if you remember on our last segment on our show, we're talking about the top prospects for the MLB draft coming up in June, and the number one pitching prospect is actually from this school, from Ugali. So congrats to the school for having so much talent and abundant resources in their programs to further their development for their athletes. So.
And especially like the sister school, have, or not sister school, sister program. The baseball team has such a highly recruited kid.
Of course.
For the softball team to be, making their way, hopefully onto a state championship round.
I think so. I think so. They have the talent for it, and they can go far in the division. So hopefully we see them, and when we do our next segment for the championship wins, they'll be there when we say their names.
Definitely. 7A, we have Gainesboro versus Nice, Bartram Trail versus Columbia, Deltona versus Melbourne. So, a lot of these teams have probably played each other, like Deltona and Melbourne being so close, they might have. But,
I mean, Vieira, the next team, which is Vieira and Matanzas, Matanzas is usually by Palm Coast and in that area, and Vieira a little bit more south, but it's still in the coast area. So these teams saw each other a lot throughout the season. And
Winter Haven, Gaithers, Chamberlain, Lake Gibson, Brendan River versus Sun Lake, all these teams,
exactly.
They're close to each other. They're in the same region. Some of them might even be in the same district, depending on how the draw goes. But, regardless if you've played somebody, one saying in sports is it's hard to beat a team twice. If they have to play a team twice, especially with, the stakes being raised.
And especially all these teams here, like we said previously, we're not talking about second-string teams. We're talking about first and second-ranked teams within the district and division of 7A championship softball.
We move on to our 8A. All the games will be played on May 2nd, and all the games will be at 7 p.m. So if you can catch any of these games, we'll have the actual destination where these games will be played tomorrow as more information comes. So again, please stay tuned. We'd like to start off with local area team, former school I went to, East Ridge. They won the district championship. They were playing absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
They'll be taking on Wharton.
Yeah.
Again, 7 p.m. We've got Freedom versus Ocala Forest, Plant City versus Steinbrenner, Winter Springs versus Windermere.
And that's a game I want to watch.
The Winter Springs, Windermere?
Winter Springs and Windermere. Yeah. Winter Springs, back when I was in high school playing for Wekiva, Winter Springs was always really good at baseball. And, having, like you said, the sister sport softball, that talent kind of rubs off on those girls and the competition as well. You see the guys getting the recognition. So it's pretty good for the girls also. Yeah. Exactly.
They step their game up.
They step their game up, and, they also want to get that same recognition.
And one thing I've noticed is when you're at a school who historically has been a good, baseball school.
Yeah.
Kids in that city tend to play baseball a little more. And softball girls tend to play a little bit more softball just because they want to go to this high school that's so good at that sport.
Exactly, and it all mixes in together. It's like kind of like a Kool-Aid, and they all start drinking and they all do good.
Definitely. To finish out 8A, we've got St. Cloud versus Haggerty. Should be another great game. George Jenkins versus Royal Palm Beach, and Wellington versus Bartow. And
the last three, matter of fact, the last four games that are going to be playing in this 8A championship are going to be super exciting. George Jenkins, Bartow, Royal Palm Beach, and including Haggerty and Winter Springs. These are all a bunch of schools that are overflowing with talent in all sorts of sports like football, baseball, softball, like we're talking about now. So if you guys go to these schools and attend, please go out and, give support to your lady softball players and give them the best you got.
Definitely. The last district we have, the big district, the 9A softball championship.
Yeah.
All the games again will be played on the 2nd. All three of the four games will be played at 7 p.m. One of them at 4 p.m. So to dive into it, we have West Orange versus Dr. Phillips at 7 p.m. Should be a absolutely fantastic game. Dr. Phillips is playing, some of the best softball, in the state, not only just the district and the region, but they'll be in contention for that 9A state championship with the way they're playing. And
in some of these games, we do have the locations if you guys want to go and attend and support your fellow schoolmates. Now, the one, Dr. Phillips and West Orange, this game is going to be actually at West Orange. And then the second one, which is at 4 p.m., Lake Nona versus Olympia, that one's going to take place at Lake Nona. 5-2 at 7 p.m., Osceola and Oviedo, that one's going to take place in Kissimmee, which is Osceola at the Cowboy Stadium. And the 7 p.m. Timber Creek versus Rich Community, which is in Lakeland, it's going to be taking place at Timber Creek. So if you guys go out there, support your lady softball players and enjoy the game and give them what you got.
We'd like to take this time to show a quick video from our sponsor, 10-15 seconds, and we'll jump right back into it. Thank you. Hope you enjoy. Welcome back. We'd like to dive into, maybe the biggest sport in Florida.
Right now.
Right now. I mean, it's been, football is Florida's sport. We put a lot of guys in the NFL. We put a lot of guys in college playing this sport. So
especially a lot of high school kids,
definitely.
A lot of high school talent from Florida that,
staying in the area, too. They do a good job in the state of Florida keeping, Florida State, Miami, keeping.
And even going pro. For example, a good example is Florida State, Jameis Winston, straight to the Bucks in Tampa Bay. So, they're really greedy with their talent and their homegrown kids.
Everybody tries to grab kids from Florida, Texas, California. Those are the big, football states. But for us, we'd like to give you a preseason top 10 with spring football on the way. We'll be going out to some spring football practices, some games. So, for anybody who wants us to attend, please contact us, let us know, and we'll be happy to go out to, any practices, any games, do anything with the team.
Interview your coaches, get information on you so that if you're not getting that recognition you
Make
desire,
you a highlight video.
We'll give you your own highlight video so you can go ahead and present it to college scouts and do anything that you like and even have it as a memory for you and your family in the future.
So let's jump into our preseason top 10 rankings for the spring season.
Let's do it.
Number one, we'll start off with Dr. Phillips. They beat Wekiva in the state Final Four last year, who's actually number 2 right now for our Central Florida rankings.
And it's my alma mater.
Yeah, his alma mater. They had a great season last year. I haven't seen Wekiva be this dominant in football since they opened, really.
When they opened in 2008, we weren't really good at anything except for baseball.
But y'all have constantly gotten better to compete with the Dr. Phillips, who, they've had so many guys go to NFL, they've had, MLB, NBA players. So it's a
hopefully
team
we
in
get
the area.
Hopefully we get some NFL players and college players. I mean, we had a lot of success when it comes to Wekiva football. We used to have some players that went to Bethune-Cookman and another one to Louisville. So we do get the recognition, but it's nice to finally be, top 3 in the rankings and show how good Wekiva is. And
to compete with a Dr. Phillips who, they get kids. As we said, they've, historically been a great football team. So to compete with them is fantastic. We go down to number 3 on our list from Tampa, Plant. Very good team, 7A regional state Final Four last year. So, they didn't get where they wanted to get to, but they had a very, very strong year.
That's good. I mean, and the fourth one is now Winter Park. They also lost to Wekiva in the quarterfinals last year. So again, these teams are the teams that you should be looking at this year to start off, because one thing is they're all hungry. They tasted how far it is to win the district championship, make it to the last Final Four, and they want to go back. It's like a saying in sports, once, for example, in baseball, once you make it to the championship, that's the tunnel vision that you have to make it there.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of teams that lost to people on our list, Osceola lost in the regional semis to Dr. Phillips, our number 1 team. So, you can't count against them too much for losing to a team that we have ranked as high as Dr. Phillips, but they dropped down a little bit to number 5, which is a great spot to start off the season.
It's not bad.
They can continue to grow. The team that I think might make the biggest jump, either number 6 or number 7 on our list. I've got number 6 with Lakeland. I like who they play and the way that they play.
Oh, man,
they were 13-2 last year, so that's a good sign for this year to come.
Lakeland is good. I mean, Lakeland has always had a lot of talent. They've been, state champs 6 times, national champs 2 times. Their last ones they haven't won in about 10 years, but the talent's still there. As you can see in their record last year, they were destroying their competition.
And they've had guys like the Pouncey twins played there. Chris Rainey played there.
Yeah.
So, that year they won a national championship, those guys went on to University of Florida to win a collegiate national championship.
And another championship there.
Yeah,
so, again, with Lakeland, they know what it is to have a winning culture. And seeps into the skin of their athletes, and that's what you see when they get to college.
Definitely. We have Ocala Vanguard, number 7. Like I said, if this team was to make a bigger jump than Lakeland, I wouldn't be surprised. They were 11-1 last year, 6-0 in districts. They could win a state championship.
Oh, they could. They could.
Have a great, I think they'll have a great preseason, a great spring practice. Yeah. If they do, what they're supposed to do, go out there, work hard every day, the sky is the limit for a team like that.
Oh, I definitely agree. It's really hard. I wouldn't say hard for a team like this, but it gives an edge to them, to a team like this, to go undefeated in the district.
Definitely.
And it's an advantage. If you lose one game in football, especially in your district, it could bring you down a couple of games, and it's tough to bounce back. So hopefully they start hot again like last year and continue and build off of that.
We look at a 3-time state champ in Apopka, a rival of Wekiva. They've pretty much been the football team in that area, while Wekiva's dominated in baseball a little more. But they've got 3 state championships. Most recently, in 2013, they were state runners-up. So that's, I guess their most recent claim to fame.
If they would have won in 2013, they would have had 3, straight.
Yeah. They ended up getting the 2014 championship. So,
that would have been really good for them.
But once you don't succeed, they continue to fight and bounce back to get that championship, which speaks volumes for the program. You get to where you want to get to, and you have a devastating loss. You have new kids come in, but that hunger and desire was still there till they get to the 3rd consecutive
and not to
state
lose sight. I mean, you can't lose sight.
Yeah.
You have to stay focused. That's just a perfect example of having tunnel vision to straight success. And these kids showed it in those years that they won and were successful. And hopefully in this new season coming up, in that new chapter for the freshmen that are going to be up there in varsity, or even the sophomores getting the opportunity to play and represent their school, that they do their best.
We've got Jones on our list. They've had consecutive winning seasons. They're a dark horse in this, but not the team that I have as, I guess the darkest of horses, if that makes sense to you. West Orange is in a district where it kind of doesn't matter what they do. They can have, they can be 11-2, 13-2, and, it looks great. But when you're in a district with Wekiva, Apopka, you've got to play Dr. Phillips, it's tough to be ranked, where you want to be when you have teams that are so good throughout the state.
I definitely agree. If we want to say, if West Orange was in a different district like it used to be a couple years back, like in 2013.
Completely different story.
They had, the same record as almost Dr. Phillips, the Wekivas, and the Apopkas, going 12-2, 11-1, etc. But, when you're playing tough competitors back to back to back, that district becomes a little tough to compete with. So, it's nice for them to get a little breathing room here and there sometimes.
And back when I was in high school, we had, West Orange was in the district with Dr. Phillips, Olympia, Apopka, East Ridge. They used to call it the District of Doom. So, it was hard to win a state championship out of that district, just because every night, in every sport, you're going against another team that could win that state championship, and that constant banging against another great team. It leads to being a little bit tired, a little worn down when it comes to that state championship.
And I kind of agree. I think the move to West Orange and Apopka and Wekiva being on the same district, it just made everything a little bit easier, for other teams to get that breathing room, like I said earlier, to compete and go further into their sport.
Well, for any student athlete that would like to be featured on our show, send us in an email or anything at videos@myGSPN.com, and we'd be happy to put any highlights and do anything for you on this show.
And again, remember, this show today here was brought to you by GardenGrocer.com. So if you're traveling, coming from anywhere to the Orlando area for the Walt Disney Resort and any resort in the Orlando area, to save money, eat whatever you want on vacation, just remember to go www.gardengrocer.com. And again, enjoy your vacation.
And we thank you for tuning in. Again, any student athlete, we encourage you to go create a player profile on myGSPN.com. Follow us on all our social media so we can interact with you and get to know you a little bit. And hopefully you tune in tomorrow for our latest show. Thank you, and we'll see you then.
See you next time.